Judgy podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Alexa.
Hey.
What's up, girlfriend?
What's been going on with you?
All right. I have to tell you something.
Okay, I'm nervous.
Be nervous for me, not you. So, I never believed in karma
Okay.
until this week.
Okay, what happened?
I mean, I believed in karma for other people. I just didn't think karma had a problem with me. And then I realized this week that it kind of maybe does.
Well, Karma's a twatty bitch. She, doesn't...
Yeah. I'm a great person. I don't know why she would come for me.
Okay.
So, my wife slept on her neck wrong.
Okay.
And she couldn't move it for 3 days.
Uh-huh.
And I was making fun of her because whenever she would try to, I'd be like, hey.
Okay.
She'd turn her whole body to look at me. And I was like, what?
Okay.
What? Really? You're exaggerating, right? So I come out of the bathroom. She's on the couch. She has frozen cauliflower rice on her neck.
Hot. Okay.
And I'm like, come on. It can't be that bad, right? 3 days, nonstop. I'm giving her shit, making fun of her.
Okay.
Okay. Great. My life's fine. My neck's perfectly fine. Until literally right after her neck is done, I go to sleep. I wake up. My neck is on fire. Insane. I still cannot move, actually. It's 5 days
So that
longer
explains
than
why
her.
you're walking like that today.
I have the cauliflower rice on my neck, and I can't move. I feel like Zoolander when he can't turn left. I just turn right. It's absolutely
That's what you
terrible.
get for talking shit about your angel wife. Sorry.
She's not an angel. Just kidding, honey. I love you.
Apparently
You're an
Karma
angel.
sided with her. So.
I'm also an angel, but I feel like had I not made fun of her, I think it's purely karma or it's old age. Either way, I'm totally screwed and I'm so upset about it.
Probably a mix of both. I mean, honestly, you're lucky that Karma hasn't gotten you
way worse,
10 times worse. Because I just feel like
I should have no neck.
I know that you've done a lot of things that
No, it's true. I probably shouldn't have a neck. I don't deserve one. But anyway, that's been my week. I still can't move. Don't ask me to turn left. I'm not going to do it.
I was wondering why you were moving around so funny.
So stiff.
Now it all makes sense.
I'm trying to have better posture.
Yeah.
What's up with you?
I mean, wow. So I guess in true fashion, we're twins because I also had a karma incident come up over this past week. So last time we were recording, we were, it was a nice day. It was sunny. We had a bottle of champagne.
Sweet.
The good times were flowing.
Yeah.
And
literally.
so Alexa got a little overexcited and spilled the champagne on her laptop.
Oh, you're putting me on blast here.
It's gonna come back around. So. I'm trying to play it cool. I'm like, oh shit, where is this gonna go? Is she gonna erupt? We need to go home. Don't know what's gonna happen. You took it really well. You took it like a champ.
I was trying. So
3 days later, Alexa's telling me how she gets she's taking her laptop to get fixed, and I happen to be with two of my closest friends at this beach house, and so I'm talking all this shit. I'm like, this dumbass, she spilled fucking champagne all over her laptop. As I wave one of my hands, water goes flying all over her mind. Literally the entire keyboard shorts, and I just turned it over and went upstairs and I was like, I'm done, I quit.
That actually makes me feel better about karma. If she's gonna get me, at least she got you.
No, it's equal.
So I'm cool with her now again.
Yeah, I don't think she has favorites.
Thank you for telling me the story. I feel a lot better about myself.
That's great. Well,
not
your laptop's still not working. Mine is.
Okay.
So karma still.
That's
clearly has
rude.
an extra one on you.
Well, at least my life isn't going as badly as Meghan Markle at this current moment. Well, I guess it's going better for her now.
I mean, she's got more money than we do, so.
Yeah, fuck. Karma, I'm so sorry. Please come back.
We have some apologies to give.
I have some enemies. Are you excited about this one?
I am. I am a royal family fan, and not in a creepy way. But I definitely grew up
creepy
not
way.
in a creepy way.
Thank you for that.
I'm not stalking them.
That's what I assumed.
They
when
have
you said
stalkers.
That.
They have stalkers. I won't give away anything that happens in the crown, but there are some stalkers. But I was a big Princess Di fan when I was a kid, and so I feel after Princess Di, I always. There was a little bit of extra attention paid to Prince, William and Harry.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of cool for me that it now is full circle. And, Meghan and Harry obviously left the UK, but it seems like their problems have followed them across the sea to Santa Barbara. So
if you guys need anybody to show you around, Meghan, Prince Harry, if you're listening, we'll give you a tour
We're
of
gonna give
LA.
a tour. I feel like James Corden just did that. So
well, we're more entertaining.
We are more entertaining.
But anyway, let's talk about Meghan first. We need to show her that we're worthy of her presence.
Okay, so quick backstory on Meghan. Well, okay, Meghan is maybe a bit of a stretch. Did you know that her real name is Rachel?
Rachel?
Yeah, it's Rachel Meghan Markle.
Okay, look, I get it if you have a hard to pronounce name or you want something more unique.
You just pick the next most basic name. You
Meghan
did nothing
Rachel.
for yourself.
I wanted to go from Stacy to Jessica. I just really want to differentiate myself.
That's amazing.
Okay, so Rachel.
That. So Rachel, we'll call her Meghan though and put some respect in her name.
Yeah.
She's from Cali. Her mom is black and her dad is white. Not that we give a shit about, that and her heritage, but it's relevant to the story that's coming, so just bear with us. Meghan is mostly known for acting in legal show Suits, which was apparently 7 seasons in. I don't know if she was on for all 7.
Did you not watch any of it?
I didn't. It's weird for me to watch legal shows as a lawyer.
Too much? You're like, I don't want to work in the law
triggering.
and watch the law.
The one exception that I'll make, obviously, is Law & Order SVU, but besides that, I have no interest. Right. So she was on Suits, and then otherwise had, like, a lifestyle blog, and I think she had some fashion lines at some point, which kind of makes sense, because she's generally, like, a fashionable person.
She knows how to dress.
Yeah.
And then she starts dating Prince Harry.
This is when it all changed.
Pretty good come up. I mean, she was already doing really well for herself.
You go, girl.
Yeah, right? In 2016, from a blind date. I need better friends.
You need better friends.
Like, imagine your friend being like, hey, I know somebody.
Casual.
And you're like, I don't know, blind dates. And then it's a freaking prince.
You get there and it's Prince Harry.
If they set me up with Prince Harry, I'd be like, okay,
you're in.
I could do this.
You're in.
I could try.
Yeah, I guess we've yet to uncover any lesbian royals, huh?
Look, I love money. And he seems like a good guy. I think we'd have a good time together.
He seems sweet.
I'd just be like, I don't know if I could have sex, but look, I'll be a great wife otherwise. Anyway.
I'll make all your meals.
Yeah, I could do other things. So they make their first official appearance together at the Invictus Games in 2017.
I loved her outfit at that appearance. I may or may not have copied it for one of my husband's birthdays.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even know what she wore.
It was like this fabulous white button down and jeans, but the way that the button down was tucked. Okay, first of all, don't come for me. But the way that the button down was tucked into the jean and the sneaker that she was wearing, I tried to do like a spot on impression of it. It didn't. Was not my best.
Okay, I'm gonna have to Google.
It's fine. I'll show you pictures. I'll show you side by side.
You do wear it. That's like your look.
That is my
think of you.
I know.
Okay,
fine, fair. So after this official appearance, they get engaged late that same year in 2017. From what I saw, it felt like there was mostly good reception. I think people at that point thought that the royal family needed some more diversity. And we haven't uncovered anything scandalous about her. I don't think that people felt like there was anything that scandalous, and she was, kind of just acting and doing fashion stuff. So the engagement seemed relatively well received.
Yeah, I think the most scandalous things, and to this day, are that she's half black and that she was a divorcee. I see that sometimes, and I'm like, come on.
In 2020.
No, but then it does start to ramp up a little bit. I mean, she's getting some, I think we both think, and a lot of people think, some racist remarks about her in the media, nationalist remarks too, because she's American. So I feel like that didn't help her either. And Prince Harry comes on strong defending her.
I mean, it was quite unfair. It was really unfair treatment. Like, I think, sure, like, she's not British. I guess if you're British and you've grown up with the royal family and you think that that's like a lineage thing.
Right.
Maybe, but I also just feel like at this point in time, are we still being that particular about, like, who marries into these arrangements? Like, let the guy find love.
Yeah.
I
feel like it's that American actress. But of all the, she had a lifestyle blog about fashion.
So that makes her.
Yeah, she's not like.
That's where she crossed her boundaries?
Yeah, she's not. It reminds me of the movie Just Married with Brittany Murphy and Ashton Kutcher.
Okay.
You watch that?
No, I did not see that one.
Then never mind. There's like this really annoying caricature of an American woman who's just like not that I think this, but huge breast implants. She's like loud and squeaky and just like, oh my God. And I'm like, that's not her.
I don't think we've gotten that from Meghan.
Not at all.
But to your point, like I feel like they went a little bit far. Like there were some headlines that I saw from, kind of various tabloids looking back. And there was one that was like, Harry to Meghan into gangster royalty, new love from crime-ridden neighborhood. As a reminder, she's from LA. So I'm like, what part of this is a crime-ridden neighborhood?
I guess some people think that we're all like Crips and Bloods over here. But there's like Hollywood, Beverly Hills. Like there's also a lot of wealth here.
There's also an actress. Like I'm sure she wasn't living in like.
She's like in Compton.
In the slums. I don't know.
She's part of the Bloods.
I think it was probably a stretch. And there was one where it was like Harry and Meghan's Vancouver home is surrounded by drugs. Like based on what?
Housewives addicted to Xanax? Sure.
It's a little crazy.
And also the discrepancy and the double standard, really, between the way Meghan is covered versus Kate Middleton, right? Who's the wife of Prince William, the older brother. I mean, when I started looking into this, I actually didn't realize this until we started prepping for our episode, right? That she was accused of breaking royal protocol by wearing wedge shoes.
I mean, wedges are ugly.
I mean,
they should be like a fashion offense, but maybe
look,
not.
Fashion offense, one thing, but is there really real royal protocol about this?
I think so. I think she can only wear certain nail colors.
Okay.
But
never mind. I can't marry Prince Harry. Anyway, so Kate Middleton also, like a little while later, I think she wears that same style shoe, and she's described as wearing the most versatile shoe of the summer.
Crazy.
Like that's literally how they described it.
They would like slander this poor lady. Like I remember when Meghan was pregnant, she, for whatever reason, you know, she touched her stomach a lot, and I think like I ended up reading articles later on, which is like an aside, that basically because of the intense scrutiny on her, like there's this maybe natural human response to like be more protective of your stomach. But I say that to say that she, you know, there were all these pictures of her like touching her stomach while she's pregnant, and people were saying that she was like just doing that for photo ops and to basically like, you know, put on display the fact that she was pregnant, and we're, you know, just giving her all this shit. But when Kate did that, it was like her cradling her baby, and it was so sweet, like how nurturing she was over her pregnant stomach.
What a nice white lady. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then I know that I saw another one where she was criticized after her bodyguard asked some fans not to take pictures of her. And then Middleton was called down to earth when she did this same exact thing. It's like when you're being hounded by people all the time, yeah, maybe there's sometimes you don't want to be. Picture. Yeah, she was. I think she was at Wimbledon too. It's not like she's just strolling around and going for a walk. She's trying to watch. It's Wimbledon. Yeah. She's trying to watch a game. Come on.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then the Royal Palace, I think too, didn't necessarily have her back at times. And I know they've defended Kate a couple times too. Apparently they spoke out against, in her defense, saying that she didn't get baby Botox.
What is even baby Botox?
I actually don't know. I didn't even look it up. Okay. I just put baby Botox. Because I was like, is the Botox for the baby or is it for you? Like, is the baby already...
Definitely for the baby.
Like, too many laugh lines already for that baby or what?
Well, okay. So all of this is the backdrop, right? So Meghan and Harry get married in May of 2018. Leading up to the wedding, because obviously like everybody knows this is coming and the world is watching, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a huge event. But there's a lot of speculation like leading up to the wedding day around her family and in particular her dad, Thomas Markle, and specifically whether he's even going to show up to the wedding. And so I think, you know, in addition to like the speculation of the event itself, people and tabloids are also trying to build up some kind of like profile or understanding of Prince Harry's soon-to-be in-laws and people who are kind of, you know, distantly going to be attached to like the royal family.
Yeah, people just want to know everything about everything now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, probably always, but now it's almost like we expect it. Like we deserve to know all this stuff.
Right.
And I think with Thomas Markle, okay, let's quickly give the people what they want.
Who is he?
He's a former Hollywood lighting director with some alleged money problems. Okay. He apparently declared bankruptcy in 2016. So you would think that he would be really on Meghan, right? Like, let's give me some money.
Chance. Yeah.
But he is apparently like a super recluse. Okay. Like he changed his phone number. He would conceal his address, even from family members. He was dodging paparazzi and everybody left and right. And it's kind of unclear how close he and Meghan were once she met Prince Harry, because I think it sounded like from her blog post that she used to have that she had a pretty good relationship with him. Okay. That she even attributed her strong work ethic to him. So it sounded pretty positive.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It didn't sound like he was an opportunistic dad at the time, at least.
Yeah, but I guess, I mean, so because he was a recluse, to your point, really, I think there ended up being more media speculation than if he maybe had been more open to kind of entertaining the game and the affair that was happening. And so, you know, like I said, there's more speculation around the relationship. It eventually kind of comes out that he hadn't even met Harry once they were engaged or at all before they got married. And so because of this, people are kind of asking about her relationship with her dad. And, you know, I think once the attention's on, people had their own questions. And so they start kind of asking if he's going to be present at the wedding. And I think people probably had some, like, I don't know how they got this access, but they like understood that he had some health issues that might prevent him. And so, you know, people were asking, the media's asking, the Crown's kind of being the Crown. And so they're kind of keeping hush hush about it and they're not really commenting. And I think my understanding now, at least, is because the answer was really changing from day to day. So they probably just couldn't even give an answer if they wanted to.
Right. And it looked like the royals were actually trying to help him by asking the media to just back off of him. So, I mean, I don't know this, but my impression was they knew that he was reclusive. He didn't want this attention. So they would ask the paparazzi, hey, lay off of him, you know, keep it on us. We'll take it, right? Because they're in the limelight, not her dad. But then this all kind of gets really murky because it comes out that he actually started colluding with paparazzi and he staged some photos of himself.
Okay.
So one of my favorites, oh my God, this is my favorite one. So he syncs up with some paparazzi, and it's supposed to be some pictures of him at a tailor getting measured for his suit for the wedding.
Okay.
But then it comes out that it's not a real tailor. It's like this 17-year-old boy who works at this party supply store. They gave him measuring tape. That's like Thomas gave him the measuring tape, and he was like directing him, like, measure my neck, do this, do that. And apparently the boy at least got a $15 tip out of it, so good for him.
$15?
Yeah, that's what you get.
That's impressive. Okay. Do you think he just went into a party store and was like, hey, you?
Yeah.
Like come take some pictures.
You're like a Party City cashier.
Like, this is creepy. No. Like, who the fuck are you?
Older white man comes in. Take this measuring tape. Plus against my neck.
Stop.
So, I mean, a couple others too. They got some shots of him browsing some books of British landmarks, like as if he's going to go look up some tours in the UK.
Casual.
And then this is also one of my favorites of him like working out, get in shape for the wedding. But apparently, if you zoom out of the photo, he's like in the middle of like a landfill. Like it's an abandoned like field area, if you can imagine. And there's just trash around.
Was it the Four Seasons where Trump did his speech?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could see Trump in the background, actually, if you just zoom in, you know? So
how do we know that they were staged, though?
So you got CCTV, first of all. So some people, that's the kind of sleuthing I aspire to get on, right? To have access to CCTV.
Okay.
Imagine what you and I could do if we had access to CCTV. Actually, don't. Let's not. Karma will come at us again.
No, we've got enough going for us right now.
Thomas, the dad, was wearing the same clothes in all these photo shoots.
What an amateur. Truly
That's how they knew. Imagine.
I mean, you would think for somebody who worked in Hollywood as a director that he would at least know, like, let me bring some changes of clothes.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I mean, here's a little behind the scenes info on us. So we do our shoots so we've got content to post, right? Like even we bring different outfits.
Yeah. We're like, change that black shirt to light black.
Right.
Dark black to light black. Come on. Get on with it.
That's amazing. And so I also found out it later kind of came out that Meghan's half-sister, Samantha, who she's not super close to and doesn't really talk to and, wasn't invited to the wedding, is kind of the one who staged these photos. And so she said it wasn't for money, but she wanted to kind of show her dad in a better light because she felt like the tabloids and just everybody was being so harsh and kind of even talking about him not attending the wedding and having all these health issues. But, she says that it's for the better light, but it's also he was reportedly getting $140,000 for these pictures in the trash alleys and with this 17-year-old child from the party store. So I don't know.
That poor boy got ripped off.
I know. He got 15 out of 140,000 for 4 pictures. But I mean, so ultimately the dad does not come to the wedding because he had health stuff. I guess he had a heart attack, shortly before, which is sad.
Pretty big, yeah.
And so I think people were or at least suspected that it had to possibly do with like this whole paparazzi scandal once it came out that all these pictures were being staged.
Right, because he did have some health issues, and I think that's what they were trying to correct in the media. They didn't want him to look so disheveled. But then he apparently, I don't know if he talked to TMZ. It seemed like he did, and TMZ quoted him as saying, "I hate the idea of missing one of the greatest moments in history and walking my daughter down the aisle. I'd like to be a part of history."
Oh, is that
he mentions history twice.
Is that the point of your daughter's wedding?
Right? Like he says wedding once and then it's like a history sandwich.
So not to walk his daughter down the aisle, just to miss being a part of history in textbooks.
Come on. I don't know. Shady. I don't know.
Well, okay, so otherwise, he, like what we said, he didn't show up, but it was otherwise like a massive affair. I mean, some of the guests included like Oprah and the Beckhams and a bunch of A-level, I know, love all the names I just said, and some like other A-level people. And I mean, my personal favorite was the fashion. So her main dress was Givenchy, and her like after party, her reception dress was Stella McCartney.
You know so much. You should start a fashion blog.
No, this is not my jam at all. But then she also like had a little like drops of blackness in the wedding, which I really appreciated because the people needed to see her heritage, and so she had a black choir and she had a black pastor. So I was like living my best life watching this really wedding. Cool. It was pretty cool. It was badass. So I mean the wedding was massive.
That's great. I didn't actually catch too much of it. Sorry.
Wow, lame.
It's not my thing.
Lame. Okay. I mean, it was on early. It was like a day drinking situation.
Look, if I got invited, I would definitely pay attention, but I didn't for some reason.
Okay. So, next one.
Anyway, so afterwards, the dad is a bit of a mess, and her half-sister, Samantha, she's not really doing anything to help things. She goes on a whole press tour talking basically shit about Meghan, including this, I have to mention, this talk show. Apparently it's called Loose Women.
Oh.
It's like I don't know. It's like an all-female cast, and they just talk about entertainment. But I'm like, loose.
Why is it called Loose Women?
No idea. I don't actually want to look it up. I just want to let my imagination take hold of what this like British all-female talk show is like, about. Loose Women.
That's like Britney and Kevin chaotic. Like who's choosing these names?
I just want to know if there are stripper poles on this thing, but whatever. So her dad claims that his heart attack was due to a letter that his son, Meghan has another half-brother, Thomas Markle Jr., wrote to Prince Harry advising him not to marry Meghan. This is just a random tidbit, but I have to mention it. So some favorite lines from this letter. He calls the wedding the biggest mistake in royal wedding history, says that Meghan is obviously not the right woman for you, calls her jaded, shallow, conceited. And my favorite, I think he ends it with, and she doesn't even invite her own family to the wedding and instead invites complete strangers.
Well, apparently she wasn't even close to like the half-brother or the half-sister, so.
No, they're all estranged, I think, because she's a lot younger than them, so they didn't even grow up together. And I think maybe there's some bitterness.
Okay, why?
Because apparently Daddy Thomas wasn't around for the two older siblings, but was around for Meghan.
He saw where the cash was, clearly. He picked the better of
I think he was like a partier. That was the impression I got of him back in the day. Like a lighting director and like partier in Hollywood scene.
Okay.
But by the time Meghan was born, he was older and had settled down a little bit more, so he was less absentee.
Okay.
So I feel like there's some jealousy there.
Okay.
So after all this happens, Meghan ends up writing this 5-page letter to her dad about their estrangement.
Okay.
And it's very personal stuff. And I don't want to perpetuate what's going on, so I'm not going to get into what she wrote about him or to him. But it was very intimate stuff. Clearly a daughter just trying to make things better with her father. And then these anonymous friends, in quotes, mention this letter to People magazine and this British tabloid Mail on Sunday, and they publish the same thing called Mail Online, get this letter. The dad sends it to them, actually.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah.
So you get like a heartbreak letter from your daughter, and you're like, you know what I'm gonna do? Take this to the tabloids.
Right. He said later that he did it to clear up misconceptions and to clear his name because he was being construed in this certain way in the tabloids. But I'm like, if you really loved your daughter, just let yourself be construed that way. Like, it's tabloids, who cares? But whatever.
I mean, we might have fucked up karma this week, but
ooh, Daddy Markle.
I don't know if his karma's gonna be
it's
any
not gonna
better.
be good.
That's a lot.
It's not karma. Leave us alone. Go after him. All right. There's bigger fish to fry. We're sorry. So the Mail ends up publishing extensive portions of this in a series of 5 articles in February 2019.
I mean, there was some pretty salacious stuff in this letter. She complains about her treatment by the royal family when she's pregnant with Archie. She talks about how she's like not allowed to defend herself to the public. You know, people are kind of slandering her, like we talked about, like in terms of breaking royal protocol or like comparing her to Kate or whatever the case is. And you know, the letter talks about how Harry basically begged her dad not to talk to the media. So there's a lot of really private stuff in there. And I feel bad. Like I would literally hide if I had written a letter like that to my family and it was like all around the world.
I know. That's why I was like, we don't want to get into it, but we also need everyone to understand that this is really intimate stuff.
Yeah.
Like this is stuff that it'd be awkward to talk about with anybody.
It's like a therapy session, basically.
Exactly. And so she ends up suing the Associated News, who is the publisher for Mail Online and Sunday Mail, for copyright infringement and invasion of privacy in October 2019.
And we'll get back to like the claims in a second, but I think it's also important to kind of note that, you know, Harry is really sensitive about kind of the media and how they treat people in his family. I mean, especially given that he kind of blamed the tabloids for his mom's death. And he, you know, like we said, is kind of continued to believe that they've been really unfair to Meghan in terms of her racial, you know, or her ethnicity and her family background and being American. And so, you know, he ends up publishing this statement on their Sussex website. And so, he, you know, generally he's discussing like truthful reporting and privacy and the cost of people's lives, et cetera, and is basically saying that they're, you know, kind of bullying Meghan. But this one part really stood out to me. And he basically says, though this action might not be the safe one, it's the right one. He said, because my deepest fear is history repeating itself. Like I've seen what happens when somebody I love is commoditized to a point that they're no longer treated or seen as a real person. I lost my mother, and now I watch my wife falling victim to the same powerful forces. Oof. That's really heavy.
That last sentence got me.
I mean, for them to, like, you know, sue these tabloids and then publish this statement, like, you know that they're really feeling impacted by this.
Yeah, and we've talked about this already on our podcast, right? We definitely have seen some characters who are very litigious and sue just to sue.
Right.
And to me, it strikes me as, like, from a control perspective.
Right.
But here, my heart really goes out to him. I'm like, yeah, your mom, she did die. She literally died in a car crash trying to get away from paparazzi. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, this is going to be very sensitive, and you don't want to see this happening to your wife. It's really sad. So they end up in April 2020 sending actually letters to these huge 4 big UK tabloids stating that they will have, quote, zero engagement with them, but still believe that a free press is a cornerstone to any democracy. And they say, the media has a right to have an opinion and criticize them, but their reporting can't be based on complete lies. So we're seeing this theme here, right? Look, criticize us, but don't just make up salacious lies just to get reads and clicks.
Right.
That's not right, because we're real people and these have real effects. Yeah. And to me, Meghan is hurting from this relationship or lack thereof with her father.
Right. And then it kind of being broadcast for the world to see.
Yeah. It's already painful enough in private.
Seriously. But I think all of this is kind of context for the lawsuit that they're now bringing. So, clearly they've decided to take this, grand stance against untruthful reporting. But, very specifically in this instance, they're now suing the Daily Mail. And like Alexa said, they're suing, the two claims that at least Meghan was suing based upon are copyright infringement and invasion of privacy. And so...
You going to explain it? Your favorite part?
I love to explain. I like to give you leads. So the right of privacy is essentially a person's right to be left alone. And so if there is an invasion of privacy claim, you're basically saying that somebody intruded into your personal life without your consent. And so usually it involves a public disclosure of private facts that would offend the average person. So if it has to do with maybe a sensitive health issue or, kind of a personal matter, something like this.
Outing somebody.
Right.
That's a huge one.
For sure. So that's something that would offend the average person. That's not a legitimate public issue or anything that the public needs to know.
Not your business.
Right. And then somebody publishing that kind of with a reckless disregard for the truth. So courts basically say, is there a reasonable expectation of privacy here? And so there are 4 types of invasions of privacy, and it can be on your name and likeness, intrusion upon seclusion, false light, and public disclosure of private facts. And so here it's a public disclosure of private facts. She's basically saying, this letter was private. You disclosed it to the world. I have a rightful claim for invasion of privacy. And of course, this is all happening kind of as we said in the UK. And, we're American attorneys, so it's worth noting that the law is not exactly the same. But interestingly enough, the UK and the US kind of look at it similarly, and in both they're really kind of figuring out if it's justified for this disclosure to happen and if it's proportionate kind of to whatever the purpose of disclosing would be.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before, but another key here is that if you're a public figure, that your kind of right to privacy is a little bit different than a private person, right? So celebrities have less rights because their life is kind of in the public domain, but that doesn't mean that they don't have any privacy rights.
Right.
They're still humans and they still have personal lives that are distinct from their professional lives.
For sure.
And so really the key distinction here we have to remember is, what is the public interested in? That's one thing. And what is actually in the public interest? And that's a major key, because I'm sure the public is interested in anything and everything. They want everything. But what does the public need to know?
Well, I think of recently, Ted Cruz going to Cancun with his kids, maybe a vacation is not something that's normally of public interest, but I think because he went during the time that Texas had all these power outages, it kind of did end up being a public interest, because people are bro, you're an elected official and you're getting on a plane to go to Cancun while we're all sitting here without water and electricity.
AOC is coming from New York, flying to Texas. Ted Cruz and AOC, always a pair. But AOC's literally flying in from New York to raise funds, to give water. She's trying to organize, and Teddy Cruz over there with his
peace out, y'all.
Sunblock on his nose, right? I picture him with the white sunblock on his nose.
First class with a cup of ramen noodles. This is everything is fucked up right now.
It's bad when you have a Hawaiian shirt tucked into your light blue jeans, your dad jeans, with a brown belt, and he's oh, hey guys, with his big Texas mask on. And I'm get out of here.
No, thank you. But I think to that point, just to illuminate Alexa's point, there, you definitely have maybe less of a right of privacy sometimes when you're a public figure, but there's definitely a fine line, and there's a balance between figuring out when is this actually a personal thing that's happening to a public person versus this is something the public should or maybe, would have a legitimate interest in knowing about.
Right.
So that's the one claim. There's invasion of privacy. On the other hand, we've got copyright.
Oof, this is a complicated one. So, copyright is probably one of the most complicated and nuanced areas of law. So we're going to give a very watered down version, right?
That's right.
Can you do this for us?
Yeah, we can do it.
All right.
So basically, copyright is the legal right to own and use could be publish or perform, etc., things that you've originally made or created. And so the creator of these original things are truly the only ones with the right to exploit the work, including the right to distribute it or copy it, basically unless you've like made that work as a work for hire, which means you've done it because somebody else is like hiring you or employing you to make that thing. So an example of a copyrighted element or item would be like a book. If you're an author, you're writing a book based on like an original idea that you have. That means that you're the only person who's got the right to distribute or reproduce that book. And so kind of similarly to invasion of privacy, copyright law is actually kind of treated similarly in the UK and the US. Copyright infringement then would be the violation of somebody's copyright rights. So, some like good examples are like bootleg movies, or you remember like Napster back in the day when we were all downloading music like a bunch of degenerates for free.
I may or may not know what LimeWire is. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, it's all the same. It's fine. We were, we were making our things work back then. But there are definitely exceptions to copyright infringement. And so the biggest one is fair use. And again, the US and the UK happen to kind of treat it similarly. But it's basically the courts looking at different factors to see if you were justified in using that copyrighted thing without the person's consent. And so some examples of this are kind of like reporting on the news or, again, matters that are like a public interest.
Right. Okay. So you just broke it down. Rights of privacy, invasion of privacy, copyright, infringement of copyright.
Yep.
So what is this tabloid Mail's argument? So on the privacy front, they basically tried to argue Meghan had no reasonable expectation of privacy for different reasons. They were really shooting for everything here. First, they tried to argue that the contents of the letter weren't private, which is real cute. I'm not even going to touch it. After what you said, right? It's very intimate stuff.
Yeah.
Like, very intimate. So they're saying that was not private. There was no reasonable expectation of privacy because they're saying Meghan allegedly told her friends, the 5 friends that went and told People magazine about the letter.
Also, these friends should be dead to you, Meghan.
Yeah, there's no loyalty. Go watch a mobster movie. That's loyalty, okay? Yeah, so they argued it's to be inferred that the letter was written and sent by the claimant, Meghan, with a view to it being disclosed to third parties and read by the public. How they got that from that letter, I don't know. Then they also go on to say that Kensington Palace aides, her support staff,
can't wait for my support staff.
We pray to have one
girl.
day.
Good for
had
you.
some input in writing the letter, and tried to argue that no truly private letter from a daughter to a father would require any input from Kensington Palace communications team.
And I imagine, she's a new mom. There's a reason you could foresee an instance in which she's dictating this letter and she's got her assistant typing it for her.
That's why,
or putting it in the envelope. I'm sure they weren't wording this letter to her dad.
Right. The aide is Father,
dear Dad,
I feel
right.
No, that's the crazy thing here too. Is I think she also is part of a royal family who's very strict about public image, and I feel like maybe she had no choice but to say, "Hey, heads up, I want to do this," and maybe that's the extent of the involvement there. But it's pretty crazy because I just can't imagine them saying you had no right to privacy on here. Clearly you wanted this to be public. And I really think they leaned into the fact that she's a public figure here, and said that because the relationship between her and her dad had been in the media, it basically made you kind of open to this public interest. And you're a public figure. So it's actually in the public interest that we get to know all these things. And so they say that any privacy rights of hers are outweighed by the need to protect the rights of her father and the public. And when I read this, I was like, what rights of her father? And they try to say the rights of him to clear his name because he was apparently being smeared as a bad father or absentee father. I don't know. I don't even know.
Would he even have that right as a U.S. citizen in the UK? That just feels like a real stretch.
They really tried it here. So those were their claims. You're going to get into the Meghan part, but I'm just going to say,
okay, sorry,
look,
I'm having a hard time not interjecting.
I'm trying really hard to pretend like I'm the lawyer for them.
I appreciate it.
I'm sweating. I'm sweating over here.
You're being real even in your reporting.
I need more tequila. Okay, and then on the copyright front, this is what they argue. They say Meghan doesn't have any copyright in the letter. Main reason they try to argue, which I found hilarious, was that the letter wasn't original because it recited facts and is therefore not protected by copyright. So again, I think we've talked about this before, but facts are not copyrightable.
Right.
Like you said, it has to be an original idea, an expression, right? So Abe Lincoln was a president. Sure, that's not copyrightable. But the way that we talk about Abe Lincoln and his presidency, that's copyrightable.
Right.
So I actually found this really insane too because they themselves are kind of a news reporting agency. So if you're going to say that like facts and news are not copyrightable, then in theory, taking your argument, we can copy paste all the articles you put on yours, and now I can publish it on Alexa.com
for sure,
and say, "Come look at my news."
Alexa.com.
If it's not
okay,
everyone slash news. Make sure you look at the news part. Okay. They also had some other minor, like weaker arguments, try to say that she wasn't the sole author again because the palace aides were helping her write it. Again, weaker. I don't really want to even get into that, but trying to say, you know, she didn't have a copyright claim because she's not the sole copyright owner. And then they said even if she did have some copyright protections, they're protected under the fair use defense that you kind of talked about. And basically saying it's okay for them to copy large portions of these letters because they're reporting on news and current events.
I am not swayed by their side.
No, I didn't get you?
None of it got me.
I guess I didn't even try.
Truly none of it got me.
I was like reciting like...
You're like reading exactly what they said.
Okay, tell us what we want to hear.
Also on the other side, Meghan is like, this is all kind of bullshit, basically. She says it's all lies, it's all fallacies. She never told her quote-unquote friends to talk to People magazine. She said quite the opposite. She actually took like really great care to keep the letter private. She only discussed it allegedly with very few people and even sent the letter through her business manager instead of even using like the royal address of the palace that they live at. Boom. And apparently she even gave it to her U.S. lawyer to keep safe and told him that he was not allowed to read it and just needed to make sure that it got to the dad. And so, you know, even further, she's basically saying there's no public interest in this because she wasn't writing as an official of the state. She was writing as a normal person. She was writing as a daughter who's trying to repair a relationship with her father. And so she's like, this letter is you know, me as a private individual talking about private and family matters. This is basically what she says to shoot down the invasion of privacy part. She's like, I kept it private. I had it under like safe lockbox situation, and it was not a public matter to be disclosed. And then on the copyright side, she's saying, well, first of all, as a matter of law, of course she would control her own letter. And again, we talked about, you know, if it's your original idea, you also get to control how it's reproduced or distributed. So she's saying that it shouldn't be published without her consent, and it wasn't fair dealing because it wasn't like a fair use scenario because the letter like really, again, was not a matter of public interest. It was really just gossip at that point. Right.
And we need to remember that just because Meghan addressed the letter to her dad, it doesn't mean the dad had the right to give it to the tabloids to publish because they also tried to argue that it was in the dad's rights. Yeah. But the copyright owner is the person who created the expression, the letter, whatever, the book, whatever it is, the expression. That's what we mean by that. So just because she wrote the letter and then literally gave that letter to the dad doesn't mean the dad, any rights are transferred to the dad. It's still with Meghan.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, even on top of like the, you know, kind of her responses or her, you know, her allegations to back up the invasion of privacy and the copyright claims, she also goes on to say that this has like caused a ton of damage to her mental health, and she's, you know, got a lot of emotional distress. You know, she's, again, a new mom. She's married into the royal family. She's got a lot going on. There were some other claims that she actually had in the initial kind of charges that got dismissed, including, like, dishonesty and, you know, the tabloid intentionally creating issues with her father. The court ultimately said they were kind of irrelevant, but ultimately she was successful to at least be able to move forward with the copyright claim and the invasion of privacy claim. So interestingly enough, actually, I guess the royals have sued for similar issues like this in the past. So Prince Albert back in 1849 sued a printer.
You looked into the 1800s.
I know. I'm such a dork. Prince Albert back in 1849 sued a printer who tried to publish like family drawings without permission.
Family drawings?
I mean, maybe he was really talented back in 1849 at his drawings. I don't know. I mean, he was the copyright owner. We just went over this. Okay. Keep up, bro.
All right.
And then back in 2005, Prince Charles sued some publishers for publishing part of his private diaries and won the case. So
his diaries?
It's really sad.
I don't want to look it up now.
We're going to go Google these after.
Nope, sorry. Nope.
So basically, because there was like a history of similar claims being brought by the royal family, legal analysts really predicted a win of the same sort for Meghan. But what happened? Did she win?
Not wrong.
Were they right?
Yeah.
Was I right?
So you were right. Good thing you looked up case law in the 1800s. That was so useful to this podcast in 2021. So just this month, February 2021, basically the court calls BS on the Mail's arguments, and Meghan wins motion for summary judgment, which means that basically she doesn't have to go to court. They say, all right, nope, there's no need for a trial. You win, Meghan. Mail, you messed up. That's the technical definition.
I'm sure it's what the
for
court,
anyone wondering.
I'm sure it's what the court opinion said.
They're like, we want to go on vacation, no trial. This is a huge win for Meghan because now the royals don't have to testify. They do not want to testify, right? They do not want to get out in the public, take the stand where, again, things will be public. That's like their least favorite thing to do. But there was a little bit of backlash about this.
For sure.
Some people argued that this actually curtails freedom of press.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, I get it. Do I agree with the argument? No, but obviously there's this legal kind of doctrine or, understanding that we talked about in both the U.S. and the U.K. where the courts, are often receptive to this fair use defense where you're basically saying, like, we're news and publication sources. Like, we've got the right to publish and share these things because the people want to know, the public wants to know. But, ultimately, I think these courts have also shown that they lean heavily towards protection of people's privacy, especially when it comes to like written personal letters. So I think there's this really kind of interesting balancing of people's rights, but also, the ability for these websites and these news sources to be able to like use and publish some of this material.
And this makes sense, right? They even publish this on their Royal Sussex site that we're not trying to curtail all freedom of press, but also if you don't come from a place of pure lies, then we'll support you. Look, you want to critique us? That's one thing. But coming up with lies about us completely, that's another. And invading the privacy, I feel like that's the biggest thing here. There were some copyright infringement claims, but the judge really went in about this in his 53-page court order, which I glanced over. But
glazed over.
I tried. Yeah. Once I saw House of Lords, I was like, okay, I'm out. But he said that she does have a reasonable expectation that the letter would have remained private, and the Mail interfered with that, and they clearly violated copyright infringement by publishing and distributing her letter and profiting from it. People are going to eat this up. And he even called the disclosures excessive and unlawful. And interestingly, the Mail is contemplating appealing, but I don't think they're going to be very successful if they do.
I mean, it sounds like the court was quite clear that this was just too much and this is not like a fair use situation and that she was indeed the copyright owner and that it was just too far, especially given the content and like the purpose of it all. But, I think this sets an interesting tone, right? I think they seem to be, they being Meghan and Harry, seem to be a bit litigious when it comes to things like this, or that, which basically just means they bring lots of lawsuits. And so I think that we could definitely see more suits like these from the two of them, especially now that they kind of had success on this one, which was a major win for them ultimately. But as a brief note, Harry has actually sued some tabloids in the past instead of settling out of court and getting money for breaching his privacy. But on the other hand, it seems like William has not taken a similar stance and kind of has had similar issues but hasn't done anything about it. So there's definitely like a variance in how they're treating these issues.
That's also, it's a little different, right? They're married to two very different women.
Right.
Well, at least they're perceived that way, for better or for worse. And I think in Meghan's instance, unfortunately, for worse in a lot of people's minds. So maybe Harry has to be more litigious to really prove a point and
like
say,
protect his family.
You can't do this. This isn't right.
Yeah.
And actually, because of that toxic media and for their mental health, as Prince Harry described, they've now officially stepped away from their royal duties and are living in SoCal, Santa Barbara County, actually, to your girl Opes.
Next to Mama Oprah.
They're like neighbors.
Love it.
And now they're doing grassroots work instead of official duties with the crown. I think they said, too, they're trying to become financially independent.
What does that even mean?
Were
they getting like an
cute.
allowance?
Yeah, it's like moving out of your parents' house at like 18 with like a stick and a little bag at the end.
And they move next door to Oprah.
Is that what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, good for you guys.
Well, the real struggle.
As we struggle in our little apartment. But good for you guys, yeah. So they have some deals with Netflix and Spotify. So I guess that financial independence is really working well.
Right. They didn't have to work too hard.
I know when I moved out of the burbs, that was my first go-to, Netflix and Spotify. Yep. So, good luck, guys. And of course, haters gonna hate. Some are blaming Meghan for taking Harry away, in quotes, and referring to their leave as Megxit.
Yeah.
People get a life.
People are dumb.
Yeah.
People are dumb. But I mean, it seems like it's going well for them. She's now come out and said that she's pregnant with baby number 2.
Cute.
And to bring it full circle back to Auntie Opes, they are doing an interview with Oprah this week where they're basically talking about their experience and moving away and, pregnancy, blah, blah, blah. Because I think, she ended up like talking around Christmas about having lost the baby. So it feels like at least they've finally kind of been able to start controlling what people know and don't know about their lives. I think the shady part, though, is that the Queen has since come out and said that she's going to have a speech that same day called the Commonwealth speech. So I'm like...
Competing party.
It just feels awkward. I mean, I'm sure they'll be on completely different times. I'm like, yeah, you guys are very petty over there.
That's hilarious. Can we back up a second? Since they're neighbors with Oprah, do you think she was like trying to pretend like she's gardening just to catch them?
Over the fence.
Yeah, to be like, oh, I really want to get this interview in, so let me come out of retirement. And she's just like, I don't know, trimming hedges, like hoping to catch them. Like, oh, hey, Meghan.
Yeah.
What are you guys up to this weekend? Nothing? Oh, would you like to be interviewed? I would love to.
I'm sure she like took over a basket of like fresh flowers and vegetables and was like, girl, I'm here for you, ready to talk about your story.
Right. Like, we know Oprah, you don't like actually trim your own hedges. What are you doing, Oprah, on that ladder? Get down.
Right.
He's been doing some more press too. He did that James Corden interview,
which was really good. I would highly recommend. It was really cute.
It was really cute.
It was sweet.
I felt for him on that obstacle course. James,
yeah,
I
was going to say Harry did actually really well.
I was on James' level. I was like, you go, boy. You try to climb that rope.
Harry was really impressive.
Highly recommend. And they're not the only ones doing some media tours.
Oh, God.
Our dad, Tommy Boy, has also done a couple interviews where he said not so nice things about Meghan and Harry.
So Karma hasn't caught up with him yet,
Not quite, but we're going to be knocking on her door. I'm going to make some emails tonight, make sure she catches up with them. But he's actually accused her of cutting him off and the entire family, calling their behavior and decision to leave the UK and their royal duties disrespectful, and has even said he doesn't think the media coverage of Meghan has been racist, citing the fact that he's never seen it and that she's never experienced racism. Coming from, again, her white dad.
It's always my favorite when people speak about things they truly have no fucking clue about. Like, you don't know the royals, so I'm not really sure like what you're leveling this up against in terms of like said disrespect that they may be feeling. I mean, as a reminder, you skipped the history, you skipped the wedding, so you don't know them.
History, truly.
And then I'm like, what the fuck do you know about being a black woman? I'm like, shut up. I can't wait for Carmen to come get him.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, what's our moral of the story from this one?
Mine would have to be that you can't steal people's letters and or diaries and publish them unless it's in your personal burn book. Then go at it.
I love that.
Get crazy. Regina George style.
I was going to get your Regina George on me. All right.
What's yours?
That. I'm going to say if you're estranged family members and you want to be opportunist and get on the come up with that, estranged sibling who's now a freaking princess, maybe don't start by sending her husband to be threatening letters and being like, she's a slut. Maybe be like, hey guys, do you need anything tonight? I'll come over with some wine and cheese. Do you want a charcuterie? That would be my way
that's a good one.
Trying to get an invite to that royal wedding.
Maybe also don't publish your estranged family members' letters.
Yeah, that too. I mean, if you want to be really strict about it, yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
I guess that's a little too far. But anyway, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Legally Judgy. We hope you enjoyed listening to us talk as much as we love the sound of our own voices.
If you did, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Also, feel free to connect with us on our socials at Legally Judgy. Until next time,
bye.